Hey everybody, Jay, Krista, Say I Do Forever coming at you, and we are straight out of the library. See that? Straight out of the library. Peace.
There you go.
Hit it.
Okay, we are doing our 5 love languages. I guess I get the serious part, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we are on chapter 10, Love is a Choice. And this was such a good chapter that it got Jay all fired up.
Fired up.
Fired up.
Ready to strike. Can't remember the commercial.
Yes. So, Love is a Choice. This was really good. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read it. We're in the last 3 chapters of the 5 Love Languages book by Gary Chapman. And we're just kind of wrapping it up, and he's kind of bringing it home, and he's doing a really good job.
Absolutely.
So he's talking about poor choices right away. It says, poor choices in the past don't mean that we must take them in the future. You know, his first paragraph is just talking about that, yes, we've made bad choices in our marriage. If you've been married a long time, we haven't helped our spouse fill their love tank. We haven't been forgiving. We haven't, done everything we need to do. We've probably made some pretty big mistakes. However, it doesn't mean that you have to keep making those in the future. You can do a 180. You can completely flip your marriage around.
We did.
Yes, we completely flipped ours around. So we know it can be done. So we know you got it in you.
Yep. It's in there somewhere.
So I think what got us fired up is, also this quote before I go on to Becky and the other, and her husband, Becky and Brent. I was like, Ben? Becky and Brent. The other quote I really, really liked is, love doesn't erase the past, but it makes the future different. You know, you're not going to be able to erase what happened in the past. You're not going to be able to make up for it enough, but you can completely flip it around, and you can make your future different. So just some great hope in this chapter. And right away we talk about Brent and Becky. And this is a marriage that got us all fired up, because Brent came to Becky and basically said, I don't love you anymore. And what is the number one reason that marriages break up? Or what's that one sentence? It's, I just don't love you anymore. I just don't have any feelings for you anymore. I think the love is gone.
And keep in mind, too, they have been married 12 years.
Yes. So they're married 12 years. They have children. They have a life together.
And usually when roads get rocky in marriage, it's usually between 7 and 10 years. So this is a couple years past that, but still, now they're at the spot where this story starts out.
Yeah. And so Becky goes to Gary Chapman. He's a counselor, and she's just weeping and crying and saying, I knew, because we had kids and stuff like that, it hasn't been the same. However, I didn't think it would be over. I thought we could get through this. Why is he, why has he done this to us? Why is he leaving our marriage? And then he calls Brent in to come in, and Brent is just stone-faced, cold, and it's just a different picture. Becky is just weeping and just miserable. Mm-hmm. And he soon finds out that Brent has probably wept years earlier or months earlier or whatever. He probably did it internally. He probably had that my marriage is dying weeping moment, maybe by himself.
Right.
And now he's gotten to the point where he's just matter of fact, and this is just how it has to be. We've got to move on. Becky is just shaken up. And then Gary Chapman comes to the reality that Brent has found another woman. And he starts going off into the in love feeling. And I think this is what got us kind of fired up. We are seeing this more and more and more with couples we work with. We've seen it over and over. And it's wearing on us that people aren't realizing that marriage is like a roller coaster. There's the ups and the downs, and people think that when you're in the downs and you're out of that in love feeling, that it's over, and
But
it's not over.
It's not over.
So what a great job he did explaining the in-love feeling and how it fills your love tank. And it usually lasts, the in-love feeling lasts about 2 years. And that's from his research and other research he's read. And we've all been there. At the beginning of a relationship, it just kind of whips you away into, wow, life was terrible. And now everything, I want to hug and love and touch this person. I have physical attraction to this person. I feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
I think he even says you could conquer the world. You just have that feeling like everything is against us, but we can conquer because we are in love.
Yeah.
And I think every marriage starts like that. Every relationship starts like that. And it's ironic, too, that he says that the in-love feeling lasts about 2 years. A lot of people court for about 2 years and then they go into marriage.
Thinking that it's all going to be just like the first 2 years. That's not the case.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're married and they wonder why it changed, because that emotional high has changed. And now you're not filling each other's love tanks, because your tank was full no matter what they were doing before, because you were just in love. But now it's going to be a little bit of work. You've got to fill each other's love tanks. You've got to be attentive. You've got to be intentional about what you're doing for your spouse.
It goes from like euphoric to like reality. You know, it does. It goes from like euphoric, like la la la, birds are chirping, you know, everything, the sun is shining, everything's well in the world. And then it goes to reality. But after it's in reality for a while, you go and you start to head back up to the height of the roller coaster, you know?
Yeah. But yet he's talking about how you can, after that euphoric in love feeling, you could still fill each other's love tanks.
Yeah.
And down the road, work harder at it and stuff, even though you see their faults now. You know, they say love is blind, but marriage is an eye-opener. Yeah. You just read that this morning.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
But you can still come back to that. Right. And you will come back to that euphoric feeling in a different way, different season of your life. So you got to hang on.
And it ends up to be a deeper love. It ends up to be a deeper love than just a euphoric, like a start of the courtship relationship type thing. It goes to a deeper love.
Yeah,
a deeper level of love.
And what Brent was happening to him was that he fell out of that love feeling with his wife. Right. And he found it in somewhere else. So what's going to happen on the other end of when his spouse, so his wife, he's in the in love, euphoric, they come out of it, they don't fill each other's love tank, they got years of kind of misery. He finds that again in another woman. Yeah. Do you think that's going to be euphoric for the rest of their lives? Do you think that's going to...
No, and why is because he's starting a cycle. And that cycle is just going to continue as long as he does what he's doing. Instead of waiting and hanging in there in his marriage till the roller coaster starts to go back up, he's jumping off the ride. Literally jumping. He's jumping ship. And
trying to get on something else that's a better ride, but it's going to end in the same... He'll be on the third marriage and the fourth marriage.
It's going to be Elizabeth Taylor all over again.
Because he's wanting it just for the feeling.
Yeah.
And not trying to create that in his original relationship.
Right.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts about this chapter? I know it got you kind of riled up. You were just like,
well, like I just mentioned, you know, he, as well as other men, and I think early on in Krista's and my marriage, you know, 5 or 7 years in, we had a rocky, bumpy road that we had to deal with. And we came out on the other side healed and renewed and stronger than ever. But we had to break that chain. I had to break that cycle. You have to make the changes to be successful in your marriage. You have to be willing to make the changes. There's couples that we've counseled in the past that didn't want to make those changes. And that's just part of life. You know, some couples are going to make changes. Some couples aren't going to make changes. We do our best to help the couples that want to make the changes. That's what we're here for. That's what the channel is all about. So, you know, I'm just glad that in this, that he did end up finally making the changes, and got back to reality.
Yeah.
He came back down to earth.
So there's a really happy ending to this story.
Yes.
And you hate to be like, but so it says, that's coming funny. Off the high, it says, 1 month later, I received a call from Brent. He indicated that he would like to talk to me again. This time when he entered my office, he was notably disturbed. He was not the calm, cool man I had seen before. His lover had begun to come down off her emotional high, and she was observing things in Brent that she did not like. She was withdrawing from the relationship.
So reality hit with the girlfriend got. So guess what?
And the cycle
repeats.
But the good part is that Brent then, she came off that cycle pretty fast, which is good, in time to save his marriage.
Yeah.
Because then he turned around and had Gary Chapman help him rebuild the marriage.
Yep.
Thank you, God.
Yep.
And now they are happily, you can read the rest of the chapter.
Yeah. Now
they are happily married and filling each other's love tanks and working hard. So when you fall out of love, it's not the end.
Nope.
When you feel like, I don't love her anymore, I have no emotion or him anymore.
Yep.
That's not the end of the road.
Nope.
So don't give up. And then
you can't just throw it. You got to look at marriages that it's not just disposable. So many marriages today look at marriage like it's disposable, like you can just throw it away. You just can't do that. You got to hang in there. You got to stay strong. You got to stay tough. You got to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And you've got to look at your love language and apply the love language that your spouse has, and then do that love language, and it's going to make life a lot easier in your marriage, for sure.
And he swings it right back to his the chapter's name, Love is a Choice.
Yep.
He says, I reminded him that true, long-lasting emotional love is a choice, and that emotional love could be reborn in his marriage. So love is a choice.
Yeah.
When you're in love, it just kind of all happens. But then when you fall out of that in love experience, you have to start making those choices. And you have to wake up. And he's talking about that people make choices every day of things that they don't want to do. Mm-hmm. Often the bed feels really nice and cozy and you don't want to get out. But you get out of bed because you have the hope that you're going to be able to accomplish some stuff that day. You're going to be able to make some money to pay some bills, or you're going to be able to take the family to the zoo. You get out of bed whether you like to or not. Mm-hmm. And he also talked about how speaking, the question was, what if the love language of your spouse is something that doesn't come naturally for you? So, he talks about, it's funny, he was growing up, his mom made him vacuum. He couldn't go do anything until he vacuumed the whole house. So he said, as a child, when I grow up, I'm not going to vacuum. I'm never going to vacuum anybody's house. So his wife's love language is gifts of service.
Service, yeah.
So
guess what he does?
He vacuums.
He vacuums.
He makes that choice to do something he doesn't want to do because he knows that it means a lot to her.
What I find funny is God's humor in this whole thing. So he says, I'll never vacuum again. And he ends up vacuuming. Just like when I worked at my old job in junior high school. This is a bunny trail. But in junior high school, I helped in the cafeteria. And the cafeteria ladies would say, I need you to go in the freezer and cooler and inventory what we have and then write it down and let us have it so we know what to order. So I'd freeze my butt off in the freezer and the cooler, and I'd say, I'll never have a job. When I get older, I'll never have a job going in the freezer and cooler.
What was your job?
I had to go and inventory the freezer and the cooler. Mm-hmm. So doesn't God have a sense of humor?
He says, "Oh yeah, don't ever say never."
Oh yeah, watch this.
Yeah. So what are some other love languages? He talks about touch. That maybe your spouse's love language is touch, and you don't come from a touchy-feely home. So how do you step beyond your uncomfort? Well, you're going to get used to it. You just keep reaching out to give her a hug.
Yeah,
him a hug.
And the whole thing about meeting your spouse's love language, if your wife if hers is physical touch, you have to set aside your own petty, personal, whatever, and meet her needs. It's not about you, it's about them. So you have to just pride aside and just do what you need to do to meet their needs. It's about your spouse.
Yeah. And I was thinking,
it's about sacrifice.
I was thinking, especially early on, well, your love language has always been affirmation.
Affirmation. Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. Yeah. And for the first, I don't know how long, I'm an introvert. You wouldn't tell it on here because I just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. But I'm telling you, I was a quiet person at one time.
She used to be.
So
many years ago, she used to be very
We don't know when it was.
Like, quiet as a mouse. Nothing. Now,
I don't know what happened.
She's not quiet as a mouse anymore.
But, so, that's a struggle for me. Like, I internalize, and I still do it. So if I'm thinking I enjoy something, or if I'm watching television and I laugh at a joke, it's all going on inside my head. I'm like looking at it and I'm like laughing inside my head.
And I'll look at her and say, "Didn't you find that funny?" And she'll be like, "Yeah, I'm laughing."
Where?
Really? I don't hear you laughing.
Yeah, so often.
But internally she's laughing.
Often when he's being amazing, I tell myself, wow, I really love him. He's doing a good job. But I often forgot to tell him.
How about a reminder?
Yeah. So, you probably, your spouse's words of affirmation don't come naturally to you.
Yeah.
But you have to practice them, and you have to go, okay, and you love them so much. You want them to feel loved.
Yeah.
And feel their tank full, right?
And ironically, her second one is for me to do for her. I feel that it's acts of service because I could do the dishes, the laundry, and vacuum, and she's like, woo! And she's all
Pressure
happy.
off.
Yeah, it's things that she doesn't have to worry about or dwell on.
Yeah, so it's very, very good. And he doesn't enjoy vacuuming. It's not like your favorite thing, and you don't enjoy dishes. You actually hate
I don't
dishes.
know anybody who enjoys vacuuming the dishes, but it has to be done, and it makes her happy, so why not?
Yeah.
This isn't about me. It's about her. It's about pleasing your spouse. There you go.
So the lessons today in this little chapter 10, love is a choice. Lessons, we could wrap it up in, even if you feel that in love feeling fall away, then start making an active choice to love.
Yep.
And if your spouse, if you know what their love language is, make it a choice to love them with that love language. So I think that's kind of the wrap up of that.
Wrapped it up.
And just a heads up, we are so passionate about this. Ironically, we're studying for our Wednesday video, which is all about like you and it's for young couples who are going to get married or thinking about getting married, the 7 signs that they know they're ready to get married. And one is, you and your partner connect on more levels than just physical.
Yeah.
And we were going to talk about the in love feeling. So when we did this, we were like so passionate about this. I think we're probably going to close out this video and
do
go ahead and
video.
record Wednesday's video because there's so much good stuff in this for Wednesday.
Yep.
So we will see you then on Wednesday for maybe additional information.
Yeah. So
on the in love feeling.
So this is Jay, Krista. Say I do forever. We'll see you next time.
Say I do forever.